All right, so today we're going to connect some pretty wild dots. We're drawing a line from a 19th century war over silver all the way to the 21st century race for AI. We'll explore how the strategy of a single washing machine company grew into a national master plan, and what all of that tells us about the deep human drive to win the future. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like the setup for a really weird joke, right? But stick with me, because there is a direct line that connects all three. They're all part of one single, powerful story, the relentless, ongoing race for what comes next.
So, to really get what's happening today, we've got to rewind the clock, way back. We're talking about a time when China was, without question, the economic center of the world, a true silver empire.
Picture this. The whole world wanted what China had: tea, silk, porcelain. And China demanded to be paid in one thing: silver. This gave them immense economic power. The British, though, weren't happy with this trade imbalance. Their diplomatic attempts to change things failed completely. So they found a much darker way to balance the books. They started flooding China with illegal opium. This created a devastating addiction crisis, and crucially, it reversed the flow of silver. All that wealth started pouring out of China, which led directly to the Opium Wars and a profound, humiliating defeat.
And this is so much more than just a dusty history lesson. The memory of that time, of an outside power coming in and dictating the terms, it left a deep, collective scar. It created a powerful national drive to regain control, to never be in that powerless position again. That feeling, it's the engine that fuels everything that followed.
Okay, so now let's zoom in. We're going from that huge national scale right down to the corporate level. How does a single company go from making simple, basic goods to becoming a global competitor? Well, the blueprint is right there in the story of the appliance maker, Midea.
Midea followed this classic playbook, almost step for step. They started incredibly small, literally a workshop making plastic bottle caps. Then, as Chinese incomes rose, they spotted a simple need and pivoted to making affordable electric fans. Here's the smart part. They partnered with Japanese firms to learn, to absorb their technology and know-how. Once they had the capital and the expertise, they went on a shopping spree, acquiring massive assets like Toshiba's home appliance business and even the German robotics leader, KUKA.
But the real game changer for them was a strategic pivot, moving from being an OEM to an OBM. So what's that mean? Well, as an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer, you're basically the anonymous factory making products for other brands to put their name on. The profits are lower and you're totally dependent on your clients. The goal is to become an OBM, an original brand manufacturer. That's when you build and sell products under your own name. That's where the real profit is, and more importantly, that's where you get control over your own destiny.
And you can see right here the strategy is clearly working. Today, 40% of Midea's overseas revenue comes from selling their very own brand. The big goal now is to push that number past 50%, because that's the tipping point. That's how you cement your identity as a global tech brand, not just a factory for hire.
Now, that media playbook we just talked about, start small, learn, scale up, acquire. That wasn't just a clever corporate strategy that stayed in a boardroom. It basically became the blueprint for an entire country's national policy.
You've probably heard its name, Made in China 2025. Launched back in 2015, this was a massive, state-led industrial plan. The entire goal was to transform China from being known as the world's factory that just makes low-cost stuff into a global leader in sophisticated, high-tech industries.
So, did it work? Well, despite things like the US-China trade war, the results have been staggering. By April of 2024, an incredible 86% of the plan's 260 targets were already met. It seems like the outside pressure only strengthened the country's resolve to get it done.
And the plan was very specific. It targeted 10 key sectors for dominance. We're talking about the industries of the future: electric vehicles, robotics and AI, aerospace, high-tech shipping, and even advanced medical products.
Okay, that's the high-level strategy. But what is it actually like to live inside the laboratory where this future is being built every single day? For that, let's take a look at Shenzhen, which many call the world's most high-tech megacity.
Life in a city like Shenzhen is a story of stark trade-offs. On one side, you've got what sounds like a utopia. The entire public transport system is electric, you can get your food delivered by a drone, the streets are so safe, people say they leave their phones unlocked on cafe tables. But there's a price for all of that convenience. The other side looks more like a dystopia. CCTV cameras are everywhere. Autonomous police robots patrol public spaces, and you need to use facial recognition for many basic services.
This all brings up a really critical question. In a world that's changing at this kind of hyper speed, driven by huge national plans, how does an ordinary person keep up? What does that catch-up mentality we've been talking about look like on an individual, human level?
And that brings us right back to our coder's resume. This is a real headline, and it perfectly captures that individual hustle. The mindset of do whatever it takes, learn as fast as you can. It's like a miniature version of the entire national dynamic. It's the personal drive that's required just to compete in this new world.
So if Made in China 2025 was the catch-up phase, what comes next? Well, the ambition is evolving. The goal is no longer just to manufacture technology, but to actually create it. The new buzz phrase is new productive forces. You can think of this as the sequel to Made in China 2025. This new policy is less about upgrading existing industries and much more focused on inventing entirely new ones. We're talking about the absolute bleeding edge, AI, quantum computing, and even brain-machine interfaces.
This table really shows the shift in thinking. The goal of Made in China 2025 was to become a world-class tech manufacturer. The goal of New Productive Forces is to become a global tech creator. It's a huge leap in ambition. It's the difference between following the path and paving a new one for others to follow.
So there it is, a straight line from the opium wars to a washing machine company to a coder's resume. They are all part of the same relentless, decades-long drive to catch up, get ahead, and control one's own destiny. Which leaves us with a final massive question to think about. In this global race for tomorrow, what is the true price of all this progress? And is it worth it?